put away the veggies for about a year. I really focused on quality grass-fed cuts of beef, a lot of pasture-raised eggs. I'd incorporate some beef liver, some beef heart, raw cheeses, raw milks. And within the first probably 2 or 3 weeks, the biggest thing I noticed was energy and mental clarity. I just felt really good. And it's not like a jittery energy like you get from high dosage of caffeine, but it's like this natural feeling of I just want to get stuff done. I want to be active. I want to be moving throughout my day, and I just feel good.
Gents, pleasure to have you in Austin.
Man, stoked to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, what was it, like the fall when we first met?
The fall. Saw you a bunch on social media, and then just the power of networking and being in the same, community brought us together through the likes of Matt Choi, shout out Choi, brought us to Collective, and I saw you over there working out. I was like, dude, that's Harry from Meat Mafia, and he's like, yeah, you want to meet him? I was like, 100%. And then that's the origin story.
Dude, Choi is such a good connector in that way. Because, he literally knows everyone.
Everyone.
And he's just such an easy person to get along with that, I feel like everyone's just only has good things to say, and he's always facilitating good events.
Yep. Just energy. That guy's an Energizer bunny that
totally.
It's contagious.
Yeah. And then my bro was there. We were talking about a little Ironman stuff in the sauna, and that was the birth of the friendship. So
it was the birth of the friendship.
Pumped to have you both on, and now meeting Dylan today.
Yep. Got to meet you through CJ.
Yeah. Two good athletes, so I'm pumped. I think we'll have a lot to talk about. We've already talked about a bunch. I wish we were recording a little earlier, but it's all good.
We press play now, so let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, I would love to learn a little bit more about your guys' relationship as we start, just to give a little bit of context. Just like how you guys know each other. What's the background there?
Yep. You want to go?
Yeah, I do. This is a good story. So I met our friend Dominic Trolio. Shout out Dom. He's getting married on Saturday.
Oh.
At a mission trip in Tijuana. A couple years we went with the church from our hometown. And then we finally wanted to hang out. He lived like 45 minutes away. And then he got busy. He was like racing go-karts or dirt bikes or something when I was driving. He's like, I'm gonna be there late. Sends me this guy's address. He's like, this is my boy. I was like, you want me to just pull up to this random dude's house and just knock on the door? He's like, yeah, he's cool. I was like, okay. So I get there, I walk up, knock on the door.
I literally put my hand out. I was like, you're Dylan, right? He goes, yeah, you're Christian, right? And I was like, yeah. And then from there, we just clearly became best friends.
Yeah. Now we're kind of like really close, push each other a lot. I learn a lot from this guy. He's kind of out of control, but I like it.
It's funny, like rugby player and golfer probably couldn't be more different in terms of style of sport.
Absolutely not. Because if you see me on the golf course,
he can't move his body, and I can't be hit. So
just all driver.
Dude, I have no rotation in my back. So this guy tries to correct my swing. I'm like, I can't. My body is built for rugby. It's not built for this sport. But then if you were to put him on a rugby field, I hate to say it.
Yeah, it would be like a car crash.
Left bench.
Bad. But one of the things that's cool, like Christian's obviously extremely specialized in his sport, and my body's kind of more built for golf. It's like just like the two directions we took being different so long ago, and then the way our bodies developed to kind of fit what the need is from it. Super interesting. Like I'm probably twice as flexible as him in every way, and then he's just like a brick wall walking around. So
yeah, I think the contrast is actually really interesting because before we hit record, we were talking about all the commonalities in terms of the different things you guys are doing from a health perspective to perform. But then, like, obviously the performance aspect of it in terms of golf and rugby couldn't be more different. But you guys, both eat animal-based diets. Both are kind of tinkering with, we're talking about light therapy and things like that. It's like all these little tweaks that you can make to perform better. So there is just like this underlying theme of just like mastering the craft.
Absolutely.
But the building blocks to do that are the same in a lot of ways, and then it branches off, obviously, when you get more specialized.
I think when, if you step away from the rugby field or the golf course, or you step away from the gym, the approach is pretty similar in regards to lifestyle, routine, how we're eating, prioritizing recovery, our relationships, our faith, our mindfulness, and our mindset. But when we get to the gym or the training course, it is literally polar opposites of, if I go to the gym, I'm thinking about, okay, is today a power day or a speed day or maybe a hypertrophy day? Whereas for Dylan, it's probably going to be rooted in some sort of mobility.
Like you see my workouts, you're
core.
like, what is this guy doing over there?
Touch your toes.
And then we link back up for biceps at the end. So
Yeah.
For the beach.
For the beach. Absolutely.
So let's talk about the commonalities, because I feel like, I mean, that's where I also have a lot of overlap, which is just like putting the right foods in your body, getting the right amount of sleep, doing all the things, just the basics of good health.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, so, you know, even if you're not an athlete, you should treat yourself like one, which I think is, you know, a powerful message. But you guys are athletes, so I'm curious, like, what's the overlap look like in terms of what you guys are doing?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we've just made everything about our life like a lifestyle. And it doesn't matter if we're an athlete or if you're not an athlete. Like, we try to treat our mind and our body the same way we think everybody else should treat it, in a very like healthy way. Really prioritizing recovery. I mean, I've seen Dylan's whoop scores when he's golfing, you know, 18 or 36 holes a day, and they're through the roof. They're even higher than what I would, you know, produce in a rugby game. So for us, it's really, really big emphasis on recovery. So that's eating the right foods. That's trying to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. We're big cold plungers, huge on the sauna, active recovery in the forms of pickleball, just hitting the beach, volleyball, whatever it may be. But then there are stark differences in how we have to approach our training for our respected sports.
That's one of the things I'm trying to get better at, is the active recovery, and just like actually having a work component to recovering. Like, I do sauna, I do ice bath, but there's so much more that can, like, just going and getting sunlight and chilling out is actually a positive for your health when 100%. You're doing all the other right things.
Yeah, for sure. I just think, like, and I learned it from Matt Frazier. I mean, absolute legend in the CrossFit world, but like, his form of recovery was getting into zone 2, being on the bike for an hour and 90 minutes, just flushing lactic acid out, just getting in that zone 2, steady state cardio, where you're not taxing your central nervous system. You're just allowing your body to flush out, get more blood flow, get more oxygen to your muscles and red blood cells. And so that's something I really took away. So before, my recovery sessions would be like, I'm going to get on the foam roller, I'm going to do some passive stretching. And then I started to tweak it to, no, I'm going to get on the bike. I'm actually going to get my heart rate up a little. I'm going to get a sweat. I'm going to try to flush out some of that lactic acid and that soreness that I've accumulated from a game. And the more I start moving, and it's not like high demand movements or it's not taxing my body, I've started to notice huge improvements in my recovery just from being more active. And it can literally be as simple as getting up in the morning, going a walk, and getting some direct sunlight in your light, or walking in the evening. And starting to, you know, unwind the day. So just getting some movement in, I think, is super beneficial.
For sure.
I feel like a lot of people, this is something that I've talked to a lot of my friends about, but Ned and I were just talking about it. But it's like, what's the minimum you should be doing or could be doing each day? Like, minimum viable dose to set yourself up for success. And for me, it's been like 10 to 15 minutes of actually like pretty light conditioning. And on the days where I have it, I'll maybe spend the last 5 minutes just emptying the tank a little bit.
All out.
But like, if that's my everyday, I was just doing like some simple math. I'm like, all right, that'll be like an extra 2 days worth of calories. Like, I don't really track calories, but I'm like, from an output perspective, that'll keep me feeling fresh. And then every day I'm getting like 10 to 15 minutes of something that's light, not demanding on the body, but still getting like the lactic acid out, even from a mental standpoint, just like clearing out some of those thoughts. So I do feel like, you know, mixing in or just like having that as a staple, honestly, is such a key component to being able to perform in anything. Like, for me right now, it's like perform in business, but you know, for you guys, it's, you guys actually are taking care of your body so you can not get injured and actually be elite.
100%. I think the biggest thing is, number one, just listening to your body. But number two, I think a lot of people will go to the gym or they'll go through a training session and they'll try to push themselves to the absolute max every single day, because they think if they're not gassed or if they're not on their hands and knees after a workout, then that workout doesn't matter. It wasn't good enough. But if you do that a couple days in a row, the following 3 or 4 days, your body's so taxed, your central nervous system is on overdrive. You're not going to be able to put out quality effort and quality workouts for the days remaining. So it's like finding the balance between going hard when you're feeling good and then maybe taking a step down when you're not feeling so good. So the average is still good output rather than trying to go hard, but then you're going to hit a lull. And then at that point, it's like, okay, is what I'm doing really working? Am I seeing progress, or am I plateauing because I'm not giving my body ample time to recover? So then I can go hit the next workout feeling good and refreshed and then pushing the limits there. So it's a tough thing, because at the end of the day, it comes down to your mindset and just like being okay not having the hardest workout ever. But at the end of the day, that's going to get you further than trying to push.
And some of the fitness trackers, like the Whoop, just makes it so easy to know where you are at and kind of give you a good level of what to base your workout on for that day. Like you were saying, like if you wake up and you're gassed, it's going to be a active recovery day, like pickleball, maybe walk 9 holes, something like that, something light and fun, hit the bike.
Yep.
But if you're ready to go, then floor it and get better.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like a lot of people focus on the ceiling when they're working out and not on the raising the floor.
Yep.
And you actually get better over time by raising the floor.
Yep.
So Dylan, you introduced Christian to an animal-based diet?
So I would love to take the credit for it, but it was actually my brother.
Okay.
My brother kind of started like thinking about it. I think he just kind of came across it on social media. And then he started giving it a try, like, and he went really hardcore, like eating liver fillets, which I still can't get to. Like, I'm a low dose liver guy.
Yeah.
I love the, like anything that has, organs like liver, heart, kidney mixed in.
Yeah.
Like the ground beef with it mixed in is great. But anyways, so Tyler kind of put me on it. I was struggling. Like I'd wake up some days just feeling super tired, super groggy, dealing with brain fog, especially in college when it's like just the nutrition was not good for me in college. Just so busy. But so yeah, my brother Tyler put me on it, and then we started trying to get Chris on it because obviously he's we call him an operator. He just does everything to the maximum level of like discipline, and if he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it all. I'm gonna throw this part in. Tyler was like, yeah, I don't eat. I kind of stay away from veggies. Like I'm just freaking hardcore animal based. And Christian's like, well, dude, if someone told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? And Tyler's like, you'll see. And then a couple months later, he's all in.
You jumped off the bridge.
I jumped off the bridge.
He doesn't even have plates anymore. He's all straight wood cutting boards.
Aesthetically, and I think
Filled
the
with
food tastes
coconut
better.
oil.
Just eat with your hands.
Exactly. But no, I mean, my nutrition probably 2 years ago was I'm going to eat as many salads a day as I can. My steaks were going to be the leanest cuts of meat ever. I'd stay away from chicken thighs. I'll have chicken breast because there's less fat. And as we know in America, like, especially the government and all these big, corporations are saying, stop eating red meat, stop eating animal fats, go the plant-based route. Like that's what's causing cancer and all of these chronic diseases. And I fully bought into that. But on the flip side, I wasn't recovering well. I had a lot of brain fog. I was waking up with headaches all the time. My testosterone was really low for someone 21, 22 years old who's a high-performing individual. It should be really, really high. So I started to ask questions. I'm like, why am I eating the right way, or at least the way that I think I should be eating, training my butt off, doing all the recovery, every modality that you can think of, but I'm still not feeling good. So I was like, all right, maybe I need to at least try something. And that's what I'm huge on now is I'm going to try something. And if I feel like it works, I'm going to stick with it. And if it doesn't, well, I've got concrete evidence from myself that wasn't for me. So I put away the veggies for about a year. I really, really focused on quality grass-fed cuts of beef, a lot of pasture-raised eggs. I'd incorporate some beef liver, some beef heart, raw cheeses, raw milks. And within the first probably 2 or 3 weeks, like the biggest thing I noticed was energy and mental clarity. I just felt really, really good. And it's not like a jittery energy like you get from high dosage of caffeine, but it's like this natural feeling of I just want to get stuff done. I want to be active. I want to be moving throughout my day, and I just feel good. And I was like, whoa, okay, I think we're onto something here. So I went about 6 months, and I used Blokes. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
They're awesome.
yeah, Josh Whalen has absolutely killed it in the game, and I started working with them, and so we got my testosterone. I want to say it was in December, and my test was probably in the 420, 440 ranges. 6-7 months later, it was up to about 950.
Wow.
And they asked me, they're like, dude, what did you take? And I was like, I promise you, I haven't taken anything. And I mean, I get tested by WADA, USADA, all the drug testing companies that you can think of. And I can really attribute it just from putting in the raw materials that my body really needs and not being afraid of cholesterol and saturated fat. And it worked wonders for me. And so tweaked a little bit, from where I started to where I'm at today, but I'm still a huge proponent of focusing your diet on quality cuts of animal products.
Especially for high performing athletes like both you guys, it's crazy to me to think that there's fear around cholesterol, but the fear in food is so wild that they've just basically psyoped people into thinking that green is immediately a health food.
It's unbelievable.
Have you guys had
the way
success
people think.
convincing your friends to get on board?
I got my brother fully on board.
Okay.
This kid is cooking in his dorm room at Cal Poly with a Blackstone hanging out of his window so the smoke doesn't cause a smoke alarm to go off.
I
Cooking
witnessed
ribeyes,
it. I witnessed
bacon,
it.
and eggs for all of his roommates. I mean, they're hooked. I've got a lot of people, I think, changing the way they look at food. Maybe they're not full-on animal-based, but they're starting to have a better relationship with fats and red meat and higher like, I guess, amounts of fats, because a lot of people think fat's the enemy. I think it's one of our best friends in the right dosages. But
I think I'm someone who kind of doesn't like to be like, you need to be doing this, do this. You're dumb if you're not.
Totally.
Because I don't like when people do that to me.
Yeah.
So I kind of just try to like show my friends, I guess, the way I eat. And then if they ask me questions, obviously I would love to help them understand it. But I don't really push it on people. I think that the way, like, just by a lot of friends being like, what, so you eat ground beef every single night for dinner? They'll kind of start like trying it, and they have. And a lot of my friends have like become a lot more interested in it throughout the last year or two, like Christian. But yeah, I think I mean, I don't want to go back anytime soon.
Yeah. Have you noticed anything? Because I feel like I played baseball, you played golf. A lot of times people will be like, well, you don't need to be that fit or like care too much about your health in either of those sports. But I think it's like a huge misnomer. Like the best athletes in both of those sports are freaks.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, have you seen that actually come through in the performance, just dialing in the nutrition?
Yeah, I have. When I was in college, I kind of just like would wake up, eat cereal. I mean, you're going to freaking 5:30 a.m. lift, and then you got class from 8 to 11:30. Then you drive straight from class to the golf course 45 minutes away, and then you play 18 for qualifying, and then you go home. So like the nutrition, it was just like you have to be really disciplined to get it in, and I didn't have a great understanding of what it was. So pretty much on like between hole 7 and hole 12 of every single qualifying round in my college career, I'd have a gnarly stomach ache. And it's because I would eat like just like go to a sandwich shop after class on the way to the course, and then have pretty much my on-course diet would just be like almonds. And I was like, why am I getting such bad stomach aches? Like gnarly stomach aches, because my stomach's empty, and then I'm just putting almonds in it, and I'm burning 4,000 calories after working out and going to class and not eating pretty much enough for what you should be.
Right.
But now I literally just eat beef jerky or like some type, like the chomp sticks are great. Any type of high quality, like just beef and salt, basically, in a dried meat stick, basically. And then applesauce packs, like the Go-Go Squeeze or like the store brand.
Yeah.
I am massive on those. I feel great the entire round. I'll start eating applesauce on like hole 3, and then beef jerky on like at the turn, and then applesauce on like 14, and I feel great the whole round. So it's been very beneficial for me.
I didn't know they had packs of applesauce, like the squeeze packs.
Go,
That's
go.
actually
The
legit.
best pre-workout, the best on-course snack. It's really good, because in a golf tournament you're fighting so many ways. You're competing against yourself, the golf course, the weather, and then when you got a stomach ache on top of it, it's just gnarly.
Well, it's such a mental game too, where if your like stomach is messed up, you're not going to be able to be fully there when you're making that.
And it sounds like a small thing, like if you've never played in a golf tournament, but golf tournament versus playing around a golf with your friends is a completely different sport.
Yeah. The gut and the brain are connected. So if you're dealing with gut issues, it's just like you're dragging that whole round. It's funny too. I feel like, it's so easy to ignore nutrition for a sport like golf and baseball.
So easy.
But then you're just not dealing with any of the downsides of having a terrible diet, which is massive.
Yep.
I want to hear your perspective, because your principles are what? Eat locally.
Yeah, eat locally.
Eat real foods, buy locally, and cook meals at home.
And cook your meals.
So your journey to getting there, because I want to know what the diet was for you prior to all of this, prior to you building your brand, starting your journey in the health and wellness space, building Noble, building the Meat Mafia, like when that transition happened and why the transition occurred.
Yeah, I was always pretty aware of food. I was in college, I was the kid who ate the paleo diet on the baseball. I was one of 2 kids on the baseball team who actually were eating like something different. So I would still go to the food hall. So it wasn't like the highest quality food, but I was eating like a paleo diet, and everyone knew. They're like, you know, he is taking care of himself. It's very clear that like he's operating physically on a different level. Whether or not that translates to actual sport, like, you know, we'll wait and see. But like I was taking care of myself. Before that, had run into like some health issues. Like I had pretty bad acne in high school, and it was all diet related. Like I would eat really well at home, and then at school I was playing football, baseball, like training like crazy. I could eat anything. So I still remember just like going to the caf and getting nachos and every sandwich they had, and chips and chocolate milk, and just like all these processed foods that were not serving me at the time. And so I was like struggling with the acne, because it's like it's a terrible thing to have as a high schooler. I'm like, okay, something's off here. I ended up taking medication for that, but then I had really started to make some shifts around diet through working out at this gym that I had gone to. They were buying from Amish farmers and getting really locally sourced food sources, like as close as you could get. And these guys were like CrossFit guys who were training a bunch of high school athletes. So I was always picking their brain, and they were just super dialed in with nutrition. So that's where the switch flipped for me. And I knew I needed to prioritize that in college. And then after that, I was, you know, working a corporate job right after school, working in finance, and just saw those patterns of like eating the nachos and eating sandwiches start to creep back in. And like 3 years after being an athlete, I look at myself, I'm like, dude, you're a shell of who you used to be. And so that was a moment for me where I was like, I need to start tinkering again, start seeing what's working, what's not. So I tried a keto diet. Same thing as you, immediate effects with cognition, energy, just through natural foods and getting a little bit more sleep. Like I was a totally different person. And so, you know, I didn't have any blood work done back then, but I imagine there was similar effect to you, where it was just massive positive increases. And then at that point, I was floating down the river. I was like, what else? What's next? So I tried the carnivore diet, and Brett was trying it at the same time. So we kind of linked up that way, where we were both experimenting. His was more so out of necessity, and mine was just like, I feel like a fat corporate employee right now, which I really wasn't, but it was very clear to me that I was not operating the way I could be. So just like through those small struggles, I just got really tapped in and kept going down that path of being like, okay, what's next? Got diet locked in. Let's focus on sleep. I got the Whoop and started tracking my sleep. And that's been a huge area for me recently, where it's like, you know, trying to balance running the podcast and 2 other businesses that are just in their infancy. It's like, I can't show up tired, you know? So getting sleep dialed in, really getting my blood work done too has been recently, the past 2 years, something I've done consistently. And, you know, there haven't been any like massive groundbreaking shifts that I've pulled from that blood work just yet. Like my blood work has been like good, not great. Like my testosterone was high, but there were some signs of like I noticed that my uptake or like my free testosterone was lower because my estrogen was higher. So I was like, okay, how can I dial that in so that I'm lowering that estrogen down, and then that free testosterone will go up. So little things like that you're like diving those extra layers deeper have been really profound in just actually making this a lifestyle, and not just making it something that's like, okay, maybe I'll try this diet for like 2 weeks and then switch off. It's like, no, you want to be a high operator. You got to do this stuff every single day. So it's been a really fun path. I feel like one of the things Brett and I are really trying to do is just make being healthy cool. Like your brother hanging outside of the dorm room is such an awesome thing, because most college kids are just like, they're in their degenerate phase. They don't really care about nutrition. And, you know, you should have some fun, but don't forget that like you only have one body. You got to take care of that. And if you are the kid who's taking care of your body in college, you could 10x what all your peers are doing simply by, you know, being a little bit more dialed in a few areas.
And I think today, and you mentioned it, you didn't feel your best. Like a lot of people are stuck in their normal ways of feeling, and that's both mentally and physically, but they don't really know what feeling optimal is like. And I was stuck in that. I mean, professional athlete, I'm playing for the USA, working out 7-8 times a week. If you looked at me, you would be like, oh, that guy has it all figured out. I mean, he's in great shape. He's super strong. He's fit. He's playing high level sport. But on the inside, I just wasn't feeling great. And I was like, okay, I got to fix this. And then I think the end of the day, you got to figure out what really works for you. Animal-based diet works great for me, works great for Dylan. That doesn't mean it's going to work for Joe on the other side of the street. And it's like his needs as a golfer are so different than my needs as a rugby player. I mean, the majority of my work is high anaerobic output, sprinting really fast for short durations of time, rest, go again, whereas Dylan is in this steady state of an elevated heart rate. So he's got to find the nutrition approach and the fueling approach that works for his sport, just like you got to figure out the right approach that works for you and your lifestyle and what you're trying to accomplish. So it's like, I think just having a little bit of like naiveness of like trying new things and not being scared of the repercussions. Because if something doesn't work for you and just say the first month, it's like, all right, that didn't work for me. Maybe let's try a different path and that may work for me. So it's just having that curiosity of like finding the right answer because it's so individualized.
Definitely.
And just to go back to what you were saying, like Christian was playing the best rugby of his life on world tours and stuff. And he's calling me like every morning being like, dude, I can't sleep. I have the worst headache of my entire life. I'm going to the doctor. We're doing freaking MRIs and stuff. And I was like, that's just unbelievable. And it's crazy to me how many like chronic issues where you could think like there's no way that what I had for lunch yesterday is affecting this. It affects it all. Like
I was getting
you were
headaches.
talking about acne. Go ahead with the headaches.
I was getting headaches every day. And when I first told our PT at Houston, she immediately thought, oh, concussions. You know, you need to go get an MRI. So I got an MRI. Doctor was like, your brain's completely healthy. You have no gray matter. There's no repercussions of past, or there's no implications of past concussions being the cause of headaches. And I was like, all right, well, what's something that I'm doing every day?
Then you get even more worried because you're like, okay, well then, like,
it's almost
what's going on?
Answer,
And like my blood work for the most part was great, other than, I mean, inflammation was high, but given the fact that I make tackles for a living, makes sense. Testosterone was a little low, so maybe that could have an impact on my energy and my headaches. But I was like, what's something I'm doing every day that could have an effect that I'm not even thinking about? And it's like, I eat 35 meals a week, right? Maybe 5 on average or 4 on average a day. It's like, I'm doing that and I'm drinking water throughout the day. Maybe those two things could have a huge impact on my health. Because 2 years ago, I wasn't thinking about putting Celtic sea salt or drinking an element packet. Like, I thought salt was bad. Because everybody's saying, no, you can't have too much salt.
It's amazing how good salt is.
So just these little changes in my lifestyle have actually made huge impacts on how I feel. And that's physically, mentally. That's how I recover. That's how I sleep. That's how I think. It's been life-changing.
It's all the little things that add up, like having salt in your water in the morning, taking your shoes off, standing in grass. Like for me, I'm really lucky. I live right next to the ocean. I try to get in the ocean every single day. That's my favorite thing on earth.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous how healing the ocean can be.
We had a insane episode with this guy, the grounded athlete, and he just actually released a book, but he talks a lot about grounding and most people think this is like witchcraft or like some 100%. Crazy science, but
they think all this stuff that we're talking about is like red meat. That causes heart disease.
Yeah. It's so funny once you're kind of like behind the curtain and understand it from a personal perspective. Like you have a relationship with what it feels like to ground, get good sleep, eat the right foods. But he was saying, you know, the earth is this magnetic thing, and standing on it without you know rubber soles allows the earth to pull negative ions out of your body and lower your stress state. I'm like, dang, like
just
most
that
people,
sentence just seems ridiculous. But then you do it.
And you do it consistently.
And you're aware of it.
The hard part is there's nothing to measure, which is like what we're going up against, which is there's nothing to necessarily measure on a large scale to show people who want scientific proof for every little thing. So, you know, I feel like we're fighting up against like, it's like David versus Goliath, but
the way I combat that, sorry to cut you off, is just like, don't do it then.
Yeah.
I do it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's literally what it is.
And that was, it's a really interesting point too, because I feel like at the end of the day, there's just going to be this group of healthy people who are doing all these weird things, and people are just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, wow, we just like totally missed this. We lost the plot. We were eating the green smoothies and not listening to the grounding advice and getting the right natural light and things like that.
Till it's too
just
late.
Basic stuff.
What are the little things you're doing every day now that you think are moving the ticker just 1%?
I think my lifestyle is pretty dialed in at this point. I would say I went through a pretty interesting season these past 2 months, just in terms of a move and trying to balance the business stuff. So I was definitely getting less sleep and less quality. Like the environment setup that I had pretty much gotten fully dialed in, it wasn't the same with the move. and it was a temporary move. So I was in an Airbnb, wasn't like, I was like in my element. So I really had to focus on just like managing through that. But when I'm at my best, it's like sleep is fully dialed in, getting to bed and getting up at the same time is such a basic thing. But if your clock is just in order every single day, you're going to bed at 10 o'clock and you're waking up at 6, that in itself will have such massive downstream effects versus the guy who's 7 days a week or 5 days a week, he's going to bed at 11 o'clock and waking up at 5. Or one night he goes out and he's up until 2 a.m. and waking up at 10. That can throw you off completely. So I just think trying to focus on the things that have the most downstream effect for me is just always how I try to think about things, like think about it from a first principles. So I'll just be really simple with my diet. Like I knew I was going through change. So I was like, I'm just going to simplify my diet. I know that like my lifestyle and sleep is going to be interrupted during these last 2 months. So I was getting way less sleep than I normally was.
But what can I control?
What can I control here? So I was like, I'm just going to get really dialed in with food. I'm going to start implementing and prioritizing just like the simplest meals, which for me is just like ground beef, or I would get like smoothie from Sun Life. Like I really wasn't in a place where I was able to cook, which is like our core thing is like cook all of our meals. I wasn't really able to control that as much. Just because our setup. So I was finding that I would go get smoothies, and that was just like what I had to do to get through that period. But I think the little things for me that work the best is making sure I get enough sunlight during the day. Especially now I'm spending a little bit more time than I would like to inside. So just being mindful of sunlight and getting a good walk in, like that's foundational. And like my goals are different than like you guys, but that principle still applies. Like I'm trying to focus on this business stuff and be able to perform the best I can there, but I still need to feel really good doing that. And like, I'm not going to let my health slip just because I have stuff going on in my life, you know?
I mean, I think DY and I are at a point where if you were to take golf out of his life and you take rugby out of my life, our lifestyle is going to be the same. Like we're going to approach it in a very similar manner, even though you took away the sport. I mean, we're going to wake up same time. We're going to train. We're going to be active. We're going to prioritize our health, our mentality, our friendships, what we put into our body, even though we're not, like our career is different. And I think that's the most important piece of this is like building the lifestyle that has nothing to do with your career. Because it doesn't matter. But a lot of times people associate their career with their lifestyle. And it's like, because I do this, I need to be like this. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
I also think that a lot of people maybe feel like doing some of the stuff we're talking about, like just working out, eating, not strict, but like a certain diet, going to sleep at the same time is like extremely grueling. And like for Christian, like, oh, it's such a grind. He must be he's got to be like getting tired of it. But I feel like if you do it and implement it and you can start to like enjoy it kind of a little bit and enjoy the way that you feel while doing it, whereas it's not something that you're going to like be tired of. And then when you retire from rugby, you be like, oh, cool. I'm going to eat potato chips and freaking stay up till 3 a.m. every night watching movies. Like, I feel like that I don't see that happening for either
It's
of
going to
us.
serve you guys really well. Like
100%.
You know, no matter what happens, like you guys are going to still be able to operate at a really high level.
But people, from my experiences, people's relationship with being active and food is completely backwards because they look at it in the light of, if I work out this many times a week and if I eat this amount of calories and I'm on this diet, then the number on the scale is going to change and I'm going to look different in the mirror. Where for us, all I care about is I want to feel my best.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the number on the scale. Obviously, I want to be in the right range for my sport and my body. But I'm obsessed with the energy I have, the mental clarity, how I feel. Am I happy? Do I feel like I'm actually living life, not just getting through it? Yeah.
You guys are hitting on the exact thing that most people are missing.
Yep.
Like we're focusing on the wrong metrics of success when it comes to health. And most people, it is the like number on the scale. Like, okay, you could be the exact weight you want to be, and you're probably, and you muscled your way there through some crazy diet. How do you feel?
But
and most times it's
when you
probably
get
like
there,
Threw some Ozempic in there.
Yeah.
but like, say you get to that weight, are you happy?
Yeah.
Does that mean you're successful?
Yeah.
There's so many other variables. It's like, you got to start thinking about the right things. Because at the end of the day, when we're on our deathbed, I don't care how much I weigh. I don't care what I look like in the mirror. I want to be happy with my life, proud of the things I did. I want to build an amazing family, have amazing relationships, and amazing memories.
Yeah.
It's simple.
I think it you can go really deep. Like people who are caring about the number on the scale, they're kind of just, I don't know. I think that I'm my happiest when I'm less worried about the way I look or like the way people think about me. And just kind of be like, well, I have these people in my life who I know love me no matter what. I could be 300 pounds, they still love me. I'm just gonna try to feel my best and be like the best person I can be, and then I'll kind of let everything like take care of itself from there. Because if I feel good, then I'll probably be more willing to do things like work out, which will make me look better, blah blah blah, become a better person. So I think it's crazy, like just when my brother started talking about the animal-based diet. You just take the step to get to ground beef, and it opens up all these crazy doors, bro. I talk about it all the time with my friends. Like, it starts with ground beef.
Yeah.
And then you start to question, though. I mean, this is a topic I really wanted to talk about you start feeling better, and you start eating things that people say you shouldn't be eating.
Why are they lying to us about ground beef? Don't eat whole eggs,
eat egg whites. You eat ground beef every day? Oh, no. Well, Rutger said Frosted Flakes are a better alternative.
And then you get to the FDA food pyramid. Like, what they're saying, like a Hershey's bar is healthier than fried egg and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you eat the Hershey's bar then.
Have you guys seen the graph from the Tufts study?
Yep.
It's like ground beef, cheese, and eggs are in the red at the bottom.
Yes.
That's the study.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
And Cheerios above it. I'm like, good luck. I could survive on those bottom three and actually thrive.
That's the only three you should eat.
This is actually what I
Mix
eat.
in a strawberry, you're good.
Maybe a little honey here and there, or like.
I'm big on honey.
Yeah.
Big.
It's crazy. I've eaten New York strips the day of the game, and people are like, "What the heck are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, until I start performing poorly, keep your mouth shut."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you're even if your performance stayed the same and you just feel better eating this one way, like it's all the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, but I don't want listeners to get too confused. We do eat carbohydrates, and I got to eat a lot of them to fuel my performance. So it's not just meat, eggs, butter.
Definitely. Yeah, I think carbs is one of those things too that's been, and I've fallen into that trap as well, where like the keto diet worked really well for me. So I was like, oh, I'm going to bucket carbs into this thing that's like, a bad food. But if it's coming from the right source, like, and you're a performance-based athlete, like if I was just to be like, all I'm going to do is just like go to work and maybe get like 10 minutes of exercising each day, I could be like completely low carb and just thrive on red meat. But at a certain point, like if I'm mixing my like hardcore workouts, I'm going to want some sort of like carb source around that. But even me, like I get my carbs from raw milk, honey, some fruit. And I'm a little careful about some of the fruit just because like I like to eat locally. Like I think that there's something to that, and just knowing like what's being sprayed on this stuff. I try not to get neurotic about it, but it's just one of those things.
Now you're
where
cognizant.
I'm like,
I think that's a slight difference between me and Christian's diet, because I probably need a little bit more carbs because he's bigger and probably has a slightly slower metabolism, would you say, than mine? I have an extremely fast metabolism. So I'll mix in jasmine rice, sweet potatoes, normal potatoes. I don't do it in the first half of the day, but when I'm done with the day, I will throw some mashed potatoes for dinner, rice, pasta, but it's on rare occasions.
Yeah, I like the beef as a gateway drug, because if you can just eliminate everything from your diet for 5 days and just try to eat only red meat, ground beef, that was for me the light bulb. Like that's when it all went off, where I was like, man, I feel so much better. And then I'll start to reintroduce things just to see how they affect me. And then you actually have the information for yourself, as opposed to somebody being like, hey, you should eat this way because it's better for you. I'm like, all right, like you don't know where that information is coming from, who they're testing, who they're studying on. It's funny, I was reading something the other day. Japan only allows studies to be released within Japan that are on the Japanese population, which makes total sense. Like
controlled study.
Yeah. And the population is the same as, the people that are getting that information. So it's a way to control some of the outside noise that might come in when you have someone who's, from an entirely different area, coming in and maybe getting tested and studied the same way.
They could sway the data.
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to eat single ingredient foods, whole
Definitely.
foods. And I promise the people listening, it will have a bigger impact on your health, your vitality than people think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny too. I think like implementing change is really hard for people, but as an athlete, I feel like you guys obviously like resonate with like maybe not back against the wall, but it's like, I want to be the best that I can be. So I'm going to be willing to make some of these changes. Whereas like, if you're just like the person on the couch, it's very easy to kind of sit into that baseline and not really know what it feels like to, as you were saying before, like get to that optimal level.
It is really interesting. I've noticed that over the last couple months where like, I'll throw my dad under the bus here. Like, let's say we're playing golf and he's like, why am I chipping like this? And I'm like, you need to change the way you're chipping.
You need to eat ground beef.
Right. I'm like, you need to chip this way. And he like is hesitant to do it because he's like, I'll just make the way I do it work. But whereas I feel like with Christian or like, I don't know, and myself, I'm always tinkering with my golf swing anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, if it doesn't work, then I know I can go back to what I was doing and then I'll try something else. Cause you're like, as an athlete, I feel like you're always trying to find the next little tiny shift to get just a tiny bit better. And so like for me, I'll try anything because I know I have a baseline of what works. And then I'm going to throw in this. And if it's better, then cool, I'll stick to it. Like Christian was saying with the diet, like I feel like I'm very willing to tinker because I know I can either go back or go more in one direction.
Yeah.
It's crazy because I went to UC Berkeley, and arguably one of the best public universities in the U.S. and in the world, and high-level training staff, expert nutritionists, and like the meal plans they would provide me. If you saw them today, you'd be like,
Really?
what the heck? Like, I was eating those Gatorade bars with 65 ingredients in them twice a day, couple muscle milks in them with all the artificial dyes, colorings, added sugar, ingredients
70 grams of sugar.
Yeah, ingredients that you can't even comprehend or even pronounce. High amounts of gluten, which I don't think gluten is necessarily bad, but I do think it leads to inflammation. And a lot of people in America, with how much glyphosate they spray on all of our wheat and grains in America, that's where the trouble lies.
Yeah.
So it's all these highly inflammatory foods. And I would love to know if high-level universities with high-level athletes could change the way that they approach their nutrition, would they have profound effects in weight room, recovery, injury rates, performance on the field? Because they are subtle changes that in my life, Dylan's life, and your life have had massive impacts.
Definitely. I would say 100%. Yeah. Like, you look at the guys who are elite, they all take this stuff incredibly seriously. So it's so crazy to me, though. It's at every level. Like, we've taught the experts how to think, and now those experts are prescribing things that just aren't necessarily optimal. Like, even in farming, like, we've now taught every school that, like, if you were to go and get educated on farming and go to Texas A&M, they would teach you how to use certain chemicals on your crop plant, as opposed to like raising a biodynamic farm where you have multiple species and no chemicals. It's a totally different thing. We're talking about the focus being on two entirely different things. And I think it's very easy to see how we're changing as a society because we're changing our focus on like industrializing everything, making sure that all the doctors learn the same thing about, prioritize the right macros instead of looking deeper and being like, no, you actually need to focus on the micronutrients in your food. It's really interesting. I think that like it's systemic and like for people, in order for people to make the change and understand why you should be doing this, you need to go layers deeper.
Absolutely. And I had a functional doc on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and when I asked her about her approach to nutrition, it came down to just nutrient density. I want to put the foods in my body that have the most bioavailable nutrients, are rich in minerals, trace minerals. I'm getting protein in every single meal. That's something that she really, really focused on. And at the end of the day, it is something that you got to think about. And a lot of people they're on information overload and they have so much going on in their life. So their choices when it comes to what they put in their body aren't even going through their head. They're just, I guess, byproducts of habit in their life.
Yeah.
But I think just those little changes in thinking about, okay, this has high amounts of quality animal protein. I'm going to get a lot of the trace minerals and a lot of the micronutrients from that meal. Just that small meal is probably going to do me better than having 3 or 4 other meals that are depleted in all those other, nutrients and macronutrients. But the food in America is depleted in a lot of those nutrients.
Yeah. I think people also run into the issue of feeling like they eat for pleasure. And when I'm starting to eat this keto diet, the food that I was eating was incredible. Like I felt amazing. And then started going even further with the carnivore diet. I'm like, all right, this food also tastes amazing. Getting rid of all the processed food that is tricking me to think that this stuff is actually nutritious. Like once you get over that, then you realize that your whole palate is driving a lot of the negative health outcomes. Like if your tongue is like, flavor is this thing that is supposed to be telling us what we should and shouldn't be eating. So if we're being manipulated by like Doritos, Oreos, all the processed foods that taste good, like we can all agree.
Well, those
taste
all
good.
Those companies hire scientists that get paid millions of dollars to create synthetic food that our body would crave and want and get addicted to. Like
Totally.
all the candies are based off of fruit.
Yeah.
The colors, the textures, like the Doritos, the little the powder on the Doritos is like not there for flavor, it's there for texture and like cravings and all this stuff. It's all crazy. They're like getting into our brains, figuring out what's the most addictive food. Oreos, the textures, like it's all crazy. The science behind processed foods is scary.
I feel bad for a lot of people because
they just don't know.
Well, first of all, they don't know. But at the end of the day, they'll go to the supermarket. They'll see something that says organic or fortified or whatever.
It's really tough.
Whole. And in their mind, and I give them credit, they're trying to make the right choice. So fair play to them. But then you flip over the box, you look at the ingredients. It's like, oh, geez. Like they're asking me to be stuck on these foods. And they don't know what feeling optimal looks like.
Yeah.
And they're just stuck in this trap. So, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And they just trust what the FDA says you should eat.
Yeah.
The food pyramid, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they said the Cheerios are good for me. So why would they lie? Why would they lie? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll stay away from ground beef, eggs, and butter. I'll eat Cheerios and freaking whatever it is, Hershey's bars. It's not because Hershey's gave them 100 mil, but
it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
What's it been like working with the farms in New Zealand for Noble?
It's been good. I mean, it's we still need to go over there and meet them and like build that relationship. But like the supplement side of things, like the industry itself is run through like a few major farms over there that New Zealand's interesting because they actually do things the right way. Like very big grass-fed industry. Yep. Their standards are way different. And they also have the freeze drying capabilities to actually do like massive amount of the productizing of some of those raw materials. So that's why if you look at most supplements, they're coming from New Zealand, Australia, Switzerland. They have like the industry behind it, like the industrial process behind it. So ideally we would be sourcing from the US, but there really aren't that many, like there are almost no freeze drying capabilities. But just finding grass-fed sources over there is actually a lot easier than you would think. Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't call it grass-fed, do they?
Well,
because for them, that's the norm.
Just what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. I think there's a shift happening. Like Heart and Soil just dropped a product that's American-made grass-fed beef liver, which for the industry itself is huge. Like, and they're going to benefit from that because a lot of people want to be buying local and want to be buying American made products, but it's the industry just hasn't been able to facilitate that in the past. And I think it'll be really cool seeing this transition happen where, supplements are good. Supplements are great. Like I think there's a certain place for them. Like we own a supplement business, but every single day I'll tell you to eat real foods before you start supplementing. It's just that we've gotten to this point where, it is challenging to get all of your protein if you're a mom running around with 4 kids and needing to feed all of them and make sure you're prioritizing the right foods. Like that's a challenge. It's a different set of problems than, what I have, which is I've built a lifestyle where I can cook most of my meals and take care of myself in a certain way. But for most people, they're struggling with the convenience factor. So I think from there, it's like, okay, these supplements do play a critical role in helping people start to make these steps. Like we call our product a bridge product because so many people are just living on the wrong side of the fence right now, like eating all the garbage, not even thinking that red meat's good, like not even thinking about organ meats. Like that's nature's multivitamin. Like if you started, like you're saying, Dylan, if you start incorporating a little bit of like a microdose of organs into your diet, you're going to see your energy improve.
Yeah.
So what I like about what we've done with Noble is like, let's just simplify it for people. And as they make these steps, they can start letting go of the Doritos and Oreos and garbage that they're feeding their kids. They can start giving them some high protein, nutritious foods in the form of a supplement or adding it into yogurt. And then, eventually, maybe your whole diet is just whole real foods. But it's all spectrum. That's why I do think the supplement industry is tricky because there's a lot of bad supplements out there. But when you find supplements that are serving you and helping steer you towards the right direction, I think it can be really powerful. That's how I've used them in the past.
What I love that you guys are doing with Noble, Meat Mafia podcast is you're just building a community.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest thing ever. Because I know you've had events where you have panel speakers come up, you invite people to come and listen and collaborate and network. And that for me is where I get my most energy in life, where I feel my best is just surrounded by friends and family that, we're all on our individual missions, but at the end of the day, we love community. We're chasing a dream. How can what you're good at impact what I need and my strengths complement your weaknesses? I think that's really where the magic in life comes from.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys about that because both of you guys have mentioned relationships and community. And as athletes, I feel like it can be a little isolating outside of your team. Like people don't really realize the commitment level that you guys are like putting yourselves through. Like you have to be all in.
Yep.
And so like having people that understand you, even outside of your team, I think is incredibly important. Like just able to like lift you up, tell you, be the person you call late at night when it's like, oh, I feel like crap. I have this, I'm going to the MRI, getting an MRI tomorrow. Like those are phone calls that a lot of people like don't really necessarily have community to tap into to lean on. And I think that community is, you asked earlier, what tricks or what things am I doing that I've tapped into recently. I think community is 100% one of them. Just building out people that are on the same path, who want the same things, who have the same values. It's like this, the multiplicative effect of building something out like that, where people really are on the same page, is profound. Like
Dylan and I, we call each other every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes one time, sometimes 5 times. It doesn't matter. And it's like just having a guy who, regardless of what's happening in my life, still going to love me. Doesn't care if I had a great game or a poor game. If I'm injured, he's calling me. If I'm fit and playing, he's calling me. It's just like having a bud, like I think is such a special thing in life. And not everybody in this life has that or has those relationships with their parents. But I mean, I know Dylan, him and his dad are just like me and my dad. We're best friends and we BS all day long. I call my dad twice a day, but like, I know I'm so lucky to have that because if I need something, boom, I call him and there's no judgment. And it's a really, really humbling and special feeling that you get if you're fortunate enough to have relationships like that. But if you could go even one step further and start building a community out of that, like you never know the impact you're going to have on somebody else's life. And that's why I always preach, like when you walk into a door, stand tall, smile, go greet someone because they could be having a horrible day. But just by you, that gesture of being interested. And we were just talking about the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like, just have a genuine curiosity in someone else's life and stop just thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to, sometimes I kind of look around and I'm like, I have some really cool friends around me, like people that I look up to. I look up to all of them in different ways. Like I got people like Chris, who's at the highest level of what he's doing. But Christian will text me after every tournament round I play. And it doesn't matter if I say, he's like, how'd you play? I go, I played great. He goes, yep.
That's all I say.
How'd you play? Played like shit. He goes, yep. Get him tomorrow. I'm like, it's so cool. Like, I'll play the worst tournament of my life. My dad will be like, the good news is I still love you. Like my brother, all my friends. It's super cool. And like, I'm around a lot of athletes, a lot of high performers, but at the end of the day, I don't care if they go out there and freaking fail. Like I like being around them because they're good guys and
Good people.
that they don't need to be some athlete or doing this or that to be my friend. And like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm not that cool, but I have a lot of cool people around me, which is a pretty cool feeling.
But I also know people who they'll reach out or ask for things when something big in my life happens. Say I had a really cool guy on the podcast. Oh, dude, can you connect me with him? Or I got this brand deal. Dude, can I get a bunch of free stuff? I'm like, this is when you reach out to me?
Yeah.
Like, where's the loyalty lie?
Yeah, your true colors show in those moments.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, like I've been here this whole time, you know. You could have reached out just say what's up.
Yep.
The book Think and Grow Rich comes to mind because I think a lot of people see that title and think about the word rich and think that that book is all about just making money, but it's actually just about how to treat people and how to come like approach life from a very authentic way and know that the richness of life is through relationship. And what I love about that book is it totally reframed a lot of things for me, where I used to think that I needed a lot of money in order to give to people, like in order to get to a certain point where then I could give back.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I could sit here after this podcast for 30 minutes and write a handwritten note to like someone I haven't talked to in a while and send that to them. And that would be worth more to them than $1 million.
Oh,
you know?
So spot on.
Right. And I think that was a reframe for me where, and I saw like God working in my life where I was just in this little trap of thinking that I needed certain things in order to give. And that's just so wrong. Like the foundation of it all is giving your time and attention to people.
It's funny the power of just shooting someone a text randomly. Say you haven't talked to them for 2 years. If you just be like, hey man, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Just thinking of you. It's like, whoa. When you receive that message, I've gotten it a couple times and I'm like, why are they thinking about me?
Yeah,
but it's
like,
such a refresher. It's so cool. So like if you say you just start doing that once a week and then maybe that turns into a couple times a week, like that has a huge impact on somebody else's lives. And all you have to do is spend 5 seconds creating a text message and press and send.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, like time is the currency, you know? So being able to show people that you're willing to spend your time, and that's what we've noticed in Austin. It's like, you know, creating a space for people to come, and maybe the events that we're hosting are for people, or they show up and they're like, well, that wasn't for me. But the amount of people that I've seen connect through our events, just like I'll randomly see 2 of my friends who I'm like, oh, I know that they connected through a run that like we put on.
Yeah.
That's the coolest feeling ever. Like knowing that you're able to like almost passively create these connections with people and just being like, these are the type of people who will be here. You'll meet some like-minded folks. Like there's so much power in that.
Matt Choi brought me to a run club back when I was here, when I met you. And I mean, we showed up at 6 a.m. for like a 10-mile run and there was 100 and something people.
Wow.
Just the vibe was so electric. And then we had coffee after, then we had breakfast tacos after. And I was meeting people who live in Austin now, but they're from all these various parts of the U.S. But it was a really cool feeling being in a community that all shares a similar passion of taking care of their health, meeting new people. And that's the power of the health community. And I find it really, really special here in Austin.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm missing out in Houston a bit. I really haven't found that community. Dallas, I think, is better than Houston. But every time I come to Austin, I go to the Collective or I do a run club, I'm just like, whoa, this is so cool. And I really wish I had this in my everyday life.
Yeah. It's really interesting having moved here from Boston. I didn't have it in Boston at all. Like a community just centered around community and health.
Yep.
And getting down here, I've like asked myself that question a bunch. Why is Austin this way? Like, why does Austin facilitate this vibe of openness and prioritizing other people and then also prioritizing your health? And it is like this transient city. So a lot of people are like, move here and they're like, yeah, I'm not sure if Austin's long term, but like I want to meet a lot of people. It's like, okay, so community is very important here. And then the lifestyle of just like being on like near the trail, like that trail has probably facilitated more relationships in Austin. But it's cool, like the creative juices that are happening in Austin right now. It seems like there's like a bit of a renaissance happening.
And I mean, you should see Newport Beach where Dylan lives. There's Newport Beach Run Club. There's pickleball. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Just being outside active with good people.
Yeah, you were talking about making sure you get enough sun. I was like, literally in the sun for 10 hours a day, every single day. I mean,
it's so cool.
But yeah, The Newport Beach Run Club meets on Wednesdays at 6. I've never been a part of it. My brother has. But there's like hundreds of people that go, and then they all go to a restaurant, or it's a bar, Helmsman, I think, and it's packed out Wednesday night. Just people kicking it, meeting people with like-minded ideas, like just people that they would have things in common with. And then the pickleball club, you can't go between 3:30 and 6. It's
just packed.
40 courts you can't get on. Like, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Pickleball is wild.
Pickleball is awesome.
It's like blowing up.
I know.
Have you ever played it?
Yes. And I'm like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I know it'll just take up.
It will.
I'm like this.
Yeah,
I know how I'll be with this.
Yeah.
I'm like telling people like, don't invite me to pickleball because I will come. I will go way too hard and then I'll be sore. Like, I don't want the
Do
tags.
not invite me.
Right. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. I love it.
Yeah. You guys have both mentioned some products like Element and Whoop. Are there any things that you guys are like tinkering with now? Like just these little things to implement?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go. I'm working with a company now called Timeline. They're a Swiss biotech company. They got like the first patented dose of urolithin A, which really stimulates mitophagy in your cells and helps mitochondrial function and energy production. And I've used them for about a month now. Seen really good increases in just overall energy. And they say by like 3 or 4 month mark, there can be big impacts in inflammation, strength, even though there's no changes in workout routine. So that's one supplement I'm dabbling with. I'm learning more and more about red light therapy. So obviously using it in the morning and then going to a center to do another session in one of those beds that costs $180,000.
The Thor bed?
I don't know what it's called.
It's probably called Thor.
We're both really big on cold plunging.
Yeah.
And I don't do it for inflammation or anything. I just do it for how I feel mentally.
The feel.
It's a dopamine. It's my drug of choice.
Crazy afterwards. It's so gnarly.
Have you guys
though. I hate
lifted
it.
after it?
Yeah.
That's all I did when I was
yeah.
living in Dallas.
I have.
Cold
It's
plunge,
so great.
lift.
Cold plunge, lift, sauna.
It's
I didn't know
game
that
changer.
was the way until like probably a few months back. And then I just decided to do it one day. I was like, I feel like I took like some steroid or something.
Yeah.
You don't even
lifting
want
way
a
better.
cold plunge after a lift. Directly after I don't do that.
Yeah.
There's been some studies that say you want to wait like 3 or 4 hours after a lift to get in full cold water. Just because it kind of like takes away the whole lift you did.
Oh yeah, it stunts the inflammation response after a lift, which is what you want. What else are we doing? I dabble with fasting here and there. You know, the days where I don't have a hard training in the morning, I'll fast, and I just feel light, really, really good mentally.
Is that more of like a wind down thing? Like when you have space away from actually needing to perform, it's like, you know.
So if
just
I have
like
a light session in the morning, I'll fast. If I have a team training session where I know there's going to be tackles and high impact and a lot of sprinting and whatnot, I won't obviously want to fuel up for that. But just days where I know they're a little more low key, I'll just fast in the morning and I feel great. I don't go down the rabbit hole of all the research and the science of do's and don'ts. I listen to my body. The days I want to, I do.
Yeah.
Christian you did a 3-day fast?
Oh yeah, I did the 3-day water
That was
fast.
insane. I was
How was
like,
that?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I felt good day 3. I did it as a challenge and also kind of like a reset because Gary Brecka was doing this 3-day water fast. I don't know enough about it to tell you all the research and the data behind it or to even recommend it. I tried it. I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
But I was starving by
Yeah.
People say they feel
he's
like
texting me like every 20 minutes, like, dude, I need a burger. I'm like, hey,
like people are like,
you're
by
good,
day
coach.
3,
I promise.
you feel like Superman, and maybe some people do. I felt good, didn't feel like Superman. I mentioned it before, microdosing psilocybin, which is a pretty taboo topic in today's society, but I know it's grown popularity, especially in the Austin community.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have done it. Devin Levesque, that Allie who runs.
Allie Schaefer. Yeah, we had her on the pod.
Yeah, and I've listened to a lot of her.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. And it makes everything in life a little more objective. Like decisions are made faster. I think I have a little less anxiety going through life. I feel great, mentally really sharp, and I do it a lot for just creativity. So when I'm planning podcasts or I'm in this like overload of cognitive, function where I need to really, really dive into my work, I'll do it. I'm trying to learn more and more about it from the experts.
Yeah.
And really how to properly dose and do it so I'm getting the maximum benefit from it. But it's something that's impacted my life tremendously since I started. I think it's changed kind of how I I look at life and the things I go on a day-to-day basis. And when I was doing it, I was in a really good routine. And there was times in my life where I'd be in a good routine and then I would slip away from it. But it's really ingrained the habits and the non-negotiables in my life that I know work for me best.
That's cool. Yeah, the people that we've had on the podcast who have spoken to it from more of like the expert standpoint, it's really interesting to see how it is growing. Like people like Tim Ferriss and Michael Pollan have started to really introduce the idea of using it as a tool. But I think all of these things kind of play into a topic that we haven't really touched on too much, which is just like building all this stuff up to have the mental side of things really dialed in. And as two athletes, I feel like you guys, both your sports are different, but you gotta be so dialed in mentally. So like, how do you see these things kind of helping you, like all the different things you guys are tinkering with, helping you guys mentally?
Same with you. It all comes down to confidence.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. Confidence is the crazy thing, and it's what separates people at our level for sure. I mean, Christian's at a higher level than I am, just comparatively, but I think, at least for my level, especially professional golf, the difference is just like, it's literally a quarter shot a day and you lose. But so confidence is just like doing all these little things that we're talking about today, and just knowing that you're putting yourself in the best position to be ready to go. It doesn't even mean that you're going to play good, especially in golf. Like, the difference between having a great day out there and a bad day is so negligible. It's just like one swing there, which causes momentum, or like a bounce here, or making a putt there. Like, but just doing all this stuff and then being like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I believe in my work. I believe in my preparation, my routine, and then just kind of going subconscious and just doing the thing you've done your whole life. It's like, that's what I think all this kind of things that we've talked about today has been the most beneficial for me. It's just like increasing the confidence and that I'm ready to go when I need to be.
Because I think confidence comes from doing the things you say you're going to do. And a lot of people fall short of, they say they want to get up at 6 a.m., but they snooze the alarm clock 3 times, or they say they're going to follow this diet. 2 weeks later, they fall off, or they say they're going to train for a marathon and they ended up bailing out of it. And I don't know how you can look in the mirror confident and proud of yourself when you keep compromising on all these promises you're going to make with yourself. And so when it comes to like my confidence in the game, comes down to obviously training and preparation. So got a notebook on Sundays. I write out my week. I need to do X, Y, and Z, recover, do these things, 1, 2, and 3, and eat this way. And so at the end of the day, I'm just checking it off. Boom, 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 boom. So when it comes to game time, preparation's done. I know I've done everything in my power to have a great game and put myself in the position to play my best. And something Dylan and I will text each other before games and just be like, let's see how great you can be today. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to obviously chase perfection and excellence, knowing we're never going to have a perfect round of golf or a perfect rugby game, but we're just trying to test our limits. And I think when we approach it in the lens of curiosity of like, where could I go? Where can I be? What type of athlete can I be? Then I think it takes some pressure off of yourself from telling yourself, I need to shoot this today, or I need to score this amount of tries and make this amount of tackles. It's like, no, like all that is going to be taken care of by your preparation. Now it's like, go out there, have fun, and just see the limits that you can push.
And that question, how good can I be right now? How great can I be today? It takes you off of result focused, which is, for golf, for me specifically, a horrible place to be.
Right.
You have an 8-footer, I have to make it. That's not, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, good luck.
Because you're playing on a organic surface. Like, it's not indoor at a basketball gym where if you shoot a free throw, there's no wind, there's no nothing. It's going in if you shoot it, whatever, 10
you
feet
got variables.
15 feet, whatever.
Yeah.
So for golf, when I play my best, it's completely throwing away the result. Just being like, cool, I have a 9-footer to shoot 64. Let's see how good of a putt I can hit. Let's see if I could hit this 7-iron the way I want to. And just going out there and doing that 65 times, hopefully 70 times, whatever it is, and just being like, I have an opportunity to do something great. Let's see what I can do.
Yeah.
It's
we could do a whole podcast on the mental side of golf, because it's like, it truly is life encompassed in a game.
Oh, yeah.
You need precision to a point of like a scientific level to hit like in the practice.
It's millimeters on a golf club.
Like you're actually practicing to a point where like you can make that same swing every single time.
Yeah.
But then you also need to live in this creative space where it's like, how can I pull myself out of thinking that I need to be a robot to play this game well? It's so fascinating.
It is a very crazy mixture.
We'll talk about August. Like we work with the same sports psychologist, and he has this reference, the yin and the yang. So if maybe I'm getting it wrong, but it's the black with the white dot and then the white with the black dot. And a lot of athletes are in that space where they're so focused on not getting it wrong. Yeah. Like they're hyper focused on not missing it. So they get to the putt and they're like, I can't miss this. I can't miss this. Whereas on the flip side, when you're living in the yang, you're completely aware of everything that could go wrong.
August's definition.
You want to go?
Yeah. August's definition of confidence is the ability to be wrong. Like if I'm wrong here, is that going to be shattering to my ego, to my confidence, to my anything? But if you're truly confident, you can be wrong and just be like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. I'll try to be right the next time.
Yeah. So you're like embracing, I could miss it, or I could drop a pass or miss a kick, but my focus is on just getting it right. Yeah. So it changes the lens of where you're focusing.
Yeah, my brother said this to me once, and I forget the context completely, but he was talking about a life example through golf, and he was like, so if you're standing in the tee box and there's a pond right in front of you, and then there's a fairway on the other side, and all you're thinking about is the pond, you're nervous about hitting the water, you're not going to hit the fairway. Like 100%. Your aim is totally off.
100%. And I've seen that happen in practice, like in tournaments.
Happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I hit the pond.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Yeah. Sometimes it's out of your control.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
I blame his clubs.
It does.
Golf though is so it's so great in the sense that it humbles you too. And I'm assuming, I mean, I haven't played rugby, played football, but it's the same way where like sometimes you did bring your best and it was just something happened. And
those moments suck. I don't want to sit here and try to act like I have it all figured out. And if I have a bad performance, I'm so confident and I don't think about it. Like, I dwell on it and I hate the fact that I didn't perform at my best, but I just try to remind myself, like, number one, there's a plan for everything in my life. So if I miss today, there's probably a reason I missed. Let's learn from it and let's try to get it right the next time. So,
and it's
perspective.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've been focusing on recently in the last couple of months is like, you play horrible and then you're like, damn, am I not good enough? Am I this? Am I that? But being aware of those thoughts, everyone has those thoughts. Everyone gets nervous. Everyone will doubt themselves. But being aware of those thoughts and reframing them to being like, I want to stop the negative cycle, the downward spiral. So then you go in your journal, affirmations, gratitude, all this stuff, and then you kind of start thinking yourself out of it. But you have to be cognizant of the negative thoughts, the downward spiral, in order to reverse it and go back up. Because, I mean, the only thing that matters to me, like if I have confidence, I know I'll play good. Mm-hmm. It's not the changes in my swing. It's not the way I'm hitting my putter. It's nothing like technical.
Right.
I've put in enough hours, and I'm sure it's the same with Christian. Yeah. Like if you're in a good spot mentally, you'll play good because you're confident and you don't need to force anything. You just let it come.
Same goes for every single person in this world. Like, love to know where your confidence comes from, how you generate it, how you maintain it. And when say you're feeling less confident, what are the things you're doing to get out of that?
It's so similar to what you guys are talking about. Yeah, I've totally used the frame of athletics to apply to life after sports, where it's very much having a plan and committing to the plan. And I get a lot of my confidence just from the routines that I put myself through every single day. I get a lot of confidence from the people I surround myself with, all positive people who I can pull on when I know I need to, and knowing that there's people there that like are gonna step up if I need them to. And then, also, I mean, more recently just have been on a really powerful faith journey and getting closer to God. I feel like that for me, when I was in high school, I definitely had a relationship with God. Big Tim Tebow fan, admired him, but I didn't understand the relationship to the degree that I do now after having taken a big risk and jeopardized like my future in some ways. Like I've bet my future on what I'm doing right now. And everyone's doing that, like full stop.
Yep.
Everyone is betting their future on what they're doing right now, whether they know it or not. But, you know, I chose to make a commitment down this path. And for me, just knowing that I was getting away from structure, I found that, you know, risk pulled me a lot closer to God and understanding the truth and understanding that, you know, there's power that I can tap into outside of my own control if I believe and if I have faith in God and higher power, that all things are working for me, working for my good. Everything will be a positive as long as I have that faith. And I think ultimately that has been that's been the biggest game changer for me.
It's a good feeling when you just let go.
Yeah.
Because we hold on to everything, anger, anxiety, frustration. But when you can just sit there and just be like, it's going to be okay.
That was such a good point you just made.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
I mean, the confidence that gives you and me and Christian is amazing.
Well, it's
just be like, it's not really my plan. I'm out here trying my best, but he already wrote it.
Totally. Like I could give tons of examples in my life, but I always think that, you know, we end up trying to we fixate on something, we get these goals, we start to idolize certain things, and then the outcome actually is hindered by that in a lot of ways. And we try to make it like our own thing. Like we get really prideful and try to think that it's all in our control.
Yeah.
But the power comes from that. It's like hitting a baseball or hitting a golf shot when you know, like, you've got the right grip and you've just, like, you are, like, totally at ease of what's going to happen. Like, the result will just come. And I think God definitely fills that void and giving me that foundation, knowing that, all right, like, if Noble were to fail tomorrow, that was the stepping stone to get to the next thing that was going to work. Or if this podcast, no one listens to it, all right, like, the amount of, and also knowing that the amount of work that we've put into both of those have been full-hearted and wholehearted efforts. That in itself is also induces a lot of confidence, knowing that my heart was in it. Like, I can look back and be like, it failed, and I can see my role in that failure, but I can also attribute this to my next success.
But it only failed in just say one metric.
Yeah.
So if you go under financially, okay, it failed financially, but you gained something. You met people, you learned something. You taught yourself something that you never knew existed. And that's why I love the book, The Alchemist. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
Read it.
Yeah.
But it's about this.
I think I have it.
Oh,
I
dude,
just haven't
it's
read
so
it.
good. But it's about this kid's journey who's a shepherd, and he keeps having this recurrent vision of traveling to foreign destination and finding this jackpot. And along the way of going there, he gets pulled in every single different direction. He was supposed to get there just in a year. It ended up taking 6 or 7 years. But on each stop of the journey, he met someone else that taught him something about life. He got a new job, which paid for something else, which then gave him an interest in another part of life. And then he finally got to the destination. But the journey of getting pulled in different directions, facing so many setbacks, and meeting incredible people was worth every single moment of it, and also worth every single moment of doubt, which we're all going to have doubt in this world. But it's like having faith in yourself, having faith in something, maybe it's God in our world or some other power in somebody else's world, but just trusting yourself and knowing that the outcome is going to happen regardless. It may not be the perfect outcome that you envision today, but there's going to be so many blessings along the way, and it's just having trust in yourself and in the people around you. And then it comes down to day-to-day habits, day-to-day behaviors, which we've spoken a lot about.
Yeah. I also think a lot about, what's going to make me happy in 20 years, and it's going to be thinking about the shots that we took, the chances we tried to turn into something real. And I love the concept of like sitting around a campfire one day with like my kids and Brett's and just telling stories about the stuff we were doing right now, and like the belief and vision and things that went well and things that didn't. Like, I think from the outside looking in, it's probably very similar to you guys, where you guys are performing in your metric of success. It's like you guys are professional athletes. You guys could legitimately hang your hat on that, and people are just impressed. But there's so much struggle going on behind the scenes, and it's the same thing with, launching a business. It's like, yeah, we have a business, but every day there's something going on where we're like, okay, we need to figure out a way to either get ourselves out of this or solve some certain problem, put this fire out. And there's a lot of dynamics happening behind the scenes that from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, they're professional athletes. Their life must just be like dandy. But
we could have a whole episode on that.
yeah,
but we're athletes, but that's not who we are at our core.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we always need to try to remind ourselves, especially when, say, we're not performing at our best, is I'm a human.
Yeah.
And I'm also going through life for the very first time.
Yeah,
so I'm going to get it wrong.
You could be like, it could get really dark when you're not playing good.
Yeah.
Like, and then you just be like, if your whole identity is in athletics, then what are you if you're not playing good?
Yeah.
That's why, like, putting your faith in God, having identity in the way you treat people, other things that you're passionate about, stuff like that's really massive as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The identity is a key component of what I was missing in my early 20s and why I felt like I wasn't pursuing what I should be pursuing versus now where I feel like I'm living in my divine purpose, which is I'm just following my heart and knowing that things will work out, and that identity in Christ, knowing that there's a playbook out there on how to treat people, how to overcome certain periods of struggle. Like that's just, it's there. There's an example for you. And I think that identity is a key component to success. Like the people who are succeeding at the highest levels, they have a really strong identity. And yeah, I think right now what I see is like a lot of young guys not really knowing who they are, and that kind of being the foundation of them ultimately not getting to where they can get to.
How'd you get there though? I know a lot of people that they're stuck in their 9-to-5 wishing or dreaming that they're pursuing some other interest, but they're just scared to take that jump.
Yeah. It was, again, help from friends, people I could trust. There was one of my buddies who I was living with he was always kind of pointing me on the right path, like seeing things that I didn't see in myself. And when I was in my job, he's like, dude, you are clearly like, you're just like not living up to your potential as a person, but also like, I can tell you don't like doing this stuff. And for me, it was like, well, I'm doing this stuff. It's kind of a means to an end. And it wasn't really, I just heard myself say that enough where it like wasn't a good enough excuse at a certain point. And then he just made a bet to me after I had gotten to the point where I started interviewing for other jobs. He just made a bet. He was like, all right, we're going out for steak dinners on Friday. And if you quit your job, I'll pay. And if you don't, then you have to pay. And I was like, well, I'm not going to lose the bet.
Yeah.
So that was like that was the kick that I needed, truly, like something that stupid to make me feel like I was going to be okay. Like just gamifying it a little bit, because I felt like a lot of weird pressure that I was just putting on myself, honestly. And it was mostly just fear of the unknown and fear of, like, where's the money going to come from? A bad relationship with money, like just thinking that I really needed to be tied to a job in order to be happy, successful, secure. And it was that little trick that I played with him that got me over the hump. And then after that, it was just like a flood of, why did I actually put myself in that fear prison, in that job, thinking that this was like kind of all the opportunities I was going to have for myself. And then once I got kind of just out on my own, I just started taking a lot more chances, which to me, when you work in that corporate environment, you stop taking chances. And that's when you start growing distant from God, different distance from your potential. You start kind of just living in that bubble, and everything you do is defined in that bubble. But just taking some shots is worth it. And I was comfortable at that point to be like, all right, I don't give a crap. I will go to zero. I just want to know after 2 years that I've found the thing that I want to work on for the rest of my life, or for the next extended period of time, just pour my heart into. And that to me was a bet worth taking. Like, I don't want to be the person who's just starting a family and doesn't love or doesn't see the purpose in my life outside of that,
Well said. Well said. The unknown, scary place, but rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. So you two, what's next for you guys in terms of your careers? I would love to know, how you guys are thinking about things.
You want to go?
You can start us off.
Let me start. Timeline wise, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to play. Not saying I'm retiring tomorrow. Not saying I'm going to retire in 5 years. I'm enjoying it right now. I'm obsessed with the lifestyle that I live. Definitely comes down to how my body holds up in the next few years. But we have the World Cup 2027. which ever since I started playing rugby when I was 13 has been a dream. I represent the USA right now, which one of life's greatest honors and privileges for me, but to play at a World Cup it's the mecca of international rugby. So that's 3 years away. We're building my podcast, building my personal brand. I definitely want to start getting into coaching people, especially like younger athletes, both from a physical standpoint, but also like a lifestyle and mental standpoint. Just because, I mean, there's a quote, "You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were." And I was a young kid wishing I had some sort of mentor doing what I'm doing now that was in my corner, helping me out, guiding me. And so I feel like because I've built my name and my brand, and I have some accolades behind my name, I think I could be a credible source and some sort of inspiration to the next up and coming athlete. So that's something where my head's at, and just continue building a community of amazing people. I mean, that's really all I care about right now is good memories, traveling a lot. And it all comes down to like just having no regrets later in life.
I can see you being an incredible coach.
I love it.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
This could be my first guy.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I learn a lot from Christian all the time. I'm very, very lucky to have him in my life and be able to bounce ideas off of him. But yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat. I'm just kind of pedal to the metal on golf, see where it takes me. Just work as hard as I can and go for as long as I can. Like the average age of a PGA Tour rookie, I think, is 32. So it's really, really hard to get there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
But like, I feel like I'm super blessed in just my day to day. Like how you were saying, life's not about how much money you have in the bank. Like I get to travel for work. I get to see all these crazy places. And then just, I think it's a privilege to be able to like to face challenges all the time and like just see how far I can go, how good I can get at something. Like I get to wake up every day and just see how good I can get, which is really, really cool. And so it's really exciting. I mean, I have Q school coming up in a couple weeks, and then Monday qualifiers, just playing golf. It's really just me versus me, kind of. I know it's a cliche, but it's literally like how good can you get and how far can you go. So that's as far as golf. And then my brother's starting a business. My dad's an entrepreneur. My brother's following in the footsteps.
Nice.
Just not a lot of structure from those two, or me really, but he's starting a business called Lit Flask. It's a water bottle with a screw-in speaker and phone charger. So it's been really cool to see all the work and like all the behind the scenes thing of creating a product.
That's sweet.
And taking it to market and just trying to blow it up. So I help out with that as much as I can, and just to be part of that journey with my brother, like my favorite person on earth, is a super cool thing. And then like Christian said, just, I mean, my mom taught me when I was really young, like relationships with people is really all that matters. Like you can be a billionaire sitting on a $20 million boat, but if you're by yourself, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah.
So you got to have friends, you got to have people to laugh with and freaking just test yourself with, be there for you in the good times and the bad. It's pretty impactful to be around people that I am lucky enough to be around. I don't know how I stumbled into this position, but I somehow did. So
it's a superpower, man.
Definitely grateful.
Yeah. You said, the challenges that you get to face and actually having gratitude for it, such a powerful unlock. Like if you can just appreciate the challenges that are presented in front of you, like life becomes a lot easier.
My dad's so big on that.
Yeah.
My dad is like, this is all that matters.
It's a good thing.
Like when you look back, this is what the cool part is. Yeah. When you have no idea what's about to happen.
Right.
You're going to look back on this and be like, wow, that was really crazy. And looking back on it already, like I didn't have a illustrious junior golf career. Played good enough at the end of high school to go D1, and then didn't have a great start to my college career, started making progress, started getting better. And it's just like, well, if I didn't, like everything that happens I really believe that everything happens for a reason, and I can know that because I look back at my life and be like, wow, if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened. Like, it's hard to connect the dots going forward, but it's really easy going backwards.
Yeah.
So.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Fellas, it's been awesome.
It's been good.
Yeah. Great having you guys in Austin.
Thanks for having us.
We got to get a lift in here.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll hit the springs.
AM.
Get a lift tomorrow.
Yeah.
Push some weight.
Have
some fun.
I got some unfortunate news. Apparently the springs are closed every Thursday for cleaning. Can you
I thought it
believe
was a
that?
river.
Yeah. I'm like, no, it's a fenced off little part in Austin. I mean, we could go in the river.
Go in the river, go to the hotel pool. One of the two.
Yeah. Pleasure having you guys.
Thanks
yeah,
for having
really
us, bro.
appreciate this.
That was just sick.